Good morning. My name is Corina Ene. I am with the Office of Federal Programs at the State Department of Education. On behalf of Superintendent Hofmeister, I would like to welcome you to the Comprehensive Needs Assessment and Student Identification in Targeted Assistance Schools webinar. What is the Comprehensive Needs Assessment, or in short, the CNA? It is a tool that is used to assess the performance levels and identify the needs in a school. It is used to determine the root causes of the achievements and the lack thereof. It is used to set priorities to be addressed. It plans for improvement and budget to support the improvement, and it also supports schools' vision and mission in order to increase student achievement. Which programs should the CNA encompass? A comprehensive needs assessment should identify performance challenges that encompass or make connections to the purposes of all ESSA programs, especially when federal funds are requested to be used for proposed expenditures. There must be a demonstrated need for these expenditures identified in the comprehensive needs assessment. You will have to describe the results of the CNA. So first, school data was collected, then sorted and analyzed using the CNA tool. Recently, the Office of Federal Programs has published a CNA tool that is out there for the districts and for schools to be used. It is not a mandatory tool, but you are welcome to use that to collect and analyze data. And after you do that using that CNA tool or a CNA tool, then the results of the comprehensive needs assessment are described in section 2 of the targeted assistance plan. You will not have to put in this section the entire CNA or the entire data that you have in the CNA tool. It's just the results of the CNA that you have to summarize in the plan. To write a strong narrative in section 2 of the targeted assistance plan, describe the results of the CNA by answering questions such as: what is the process to identify students experiencing difficulty mastering the state's academic standards? Was a variety of data collection used? What data was collected and what trends did the data indicate? Was performance and non-performance data collected by subgroups? Which subgroups reached achievement levels and which ones did not? Were strengths and needs of improvement being identified for students, teachers, schools, and community? What are they? Were any high priorities identified to be addressed in the upcoming school year? Who determined the priorities? What strategies and funding sources will be used to address these priorities? Is the number of priorities to be addressed feasible in such a way that it will produce positive outcomes? Is there any evidence that the outcomes for all students, particularly those most at risk, have improved? Has the targeted assistance plan worked and other strategies need to be identified in schools' continuous improvement? In order to meet Oklahoma State Department of Education's expectations, the narrative in section 2 of the targeted assistance plan must indicate that the school has well-defined processes that are currently being implemented to identify students experiencing difficulty mastering the state's academic standards. It must describe how these students are determined as eligible to be served in a targeted assistance program based on the established processes. It must describe what additional assistance is given to students identified as most at risk in the targeted assistance school. The targeted assistance schools must provide an accelerated high-quality curriculum to students identified as eligible for services in a targeted assistance program. It must minimize the removal of children from the regular classroom during regular school hours for additional instruction provided under this part. On an ongoing basis, review the progress of eligible children and revise the targeted assistance program under this section if necessary, to provide additional assistance to enable such children to meet the challenging state academic standards. Data collection. In order to meet the OSDE expectations, the narrative in Section 2 of the Targeted Assistance Plan must describe the data sources used in the process, must indicate the use of a variety of sources from which the data was collected in the CNA tool, such as student performance data, student non-performance data, faculty and staff data, school and community data. The plan must not limit the data collection to one or two sources of data, but instead include all of the above sources that will provide a comprehensive picture of the student achievement. Regarding student subgroups, in order to meet the OSDE expectations, the narrative in Section 2 of the Targeted Assistance Plan must include all student subgroups identified in Section 1111C2 of ESSA, which are the economically disadvantaged students, students from major racial and ethnic groups, children with disabilities, and English learners that are represented in the school as most at risk of failure and are identified for targeted services. The plan must not pick and choose a few subgroups of students to be included in the data collection, but instead include a detailed analysis of performance and non-performance data for each student subgroup. Should not omit the student performance or the non-performance data so that the analysis is inclusive of all aspects of student achievement. Regarding the strengths and needs of improvement, in order to meet the OSDE expectations, the narrative in Section 2 of the Targeted Assistance Plan must examine student, teacher, school, and community strengths and needs, and must not overlook any of these subgroups, so all the factors that contribute to the success or failure of the school can be identified and properly addressed. Address the highest priorities in the school. In order to meet the OSDE expectations, the narrative in Section 2 of the Targeted Assistance Plan must identify the priorities that resulted from the CNA analysis, must not reflect a closed-door decision of the school leadership about what constitutes a high priority or not, must indicate a strong collaboration among school leadership, families, and community stakeholders in the identification of the highest priorities, must identify a manageable number of priorities at the right level of magnitude and align with the needs assessment for school improvement. Avoid taking on too many or too few priorities, and avoid choosing priorities that may not be at the right level of magnitude to produce positive measurable results. What is the right level of magnitude to produce positive measurable results? Determining high priorities helps direct resources to the programs that matter the most. You must identify the available resources, human and capital, and determine what their best use are to directly contribute to the improvement of the student achievement. Focus the resources as much as or as little as is needed to produce positive, measurable results. In order to meet OSDE expectations, the narrative in Section 2 of the Targeted Assistance Plan must also indicate evidence that the school's Title I Targeted Assistance Plan and cycle of continuous improvement have improved outcomes for all students, particularly those most at risk. It must avoid providing a broad description of how student achievement has improved in general, and be more specific and focused on how most at-risk students are provided the needed support and interventions, as well as the results of their improvement. After the narrative in Section 2 of the Targeted Assistance Plan was finalized, then take input from stakeholders and move on to the next section if no adjustments are needed. Here are a few helpful hints for completing the plan as PDF document. You must use either Adobe Acrobat Reader, which is a free app, or Acrobat Pro, which requires a license to be purchased. Type the responses directly into the PDF form in the designated text box. When typing on the form, the text box does not change, and one must continue scrolling down to complete the responses. Cannot paste into or attach graphs and charts to the form. You may upload graphs and charts in the Grants Management System or GMS in addition to the template. However, the graphs and charts should be converted to PDF. If you have any questions, you may email them to me to the email address that's on the screen, or you can contact Debbie Pham, who is the Title I School-Wide and Targeted Assistance Coordinator at the State Department of Education, at the email address on the screen. Until the next module, I would like to thank you for participating, and have a good day.